High-speed sensors and autonomous weapons have compressed combat decision timelines. The window to identify, lock, and fire is measured in fractions of a second. This speed removes the buffer of human reflection. An operator facing a near-peer threat cannot afford a minute to weigh a moral dilemma. The system demands an immediate response. For the military, the solution to this technical speed is the human anchor, a leader whose moral character is established long before they step into the cockpit. The Air Force views spiritual fitness as the integrating pillar of readiness. While physical and mental training provide the strength to endure, spiritual fitness defines what you are enduring for. Spiritual fitness functions as an operational capacity, a habit built through repeated choices under pressure. It is the developed ability to act on what is right, even when the cost is high. Without these preloaded ethical reflexes, technological speed creates a catastrophic vulnerability. An operator who lacks moral clarity will either hesitate or fail under fire, turning human indecision into a strategic liability. The staff ride provides the laboratory for building these reflexes. It anchors an ethics-based decision-making exercise to real ground. Karl von Clausewitz argued that the grinding chaos of war, the friction that turns clean plans into improvisation, requires a specific kind of judgment. This can only be developed by examining real choices made under extreme pressure. Instead of merely documenting a tactical outcome, this exercise explores the character of the individuals involved. It forces you to reckon with why a decision was made when the costs were high. The method follows 3 mandatory phases: read the doctrine, walk the ground, and reckon with the result. This process collapses the distance between a classroom theory and an operational reality. Examining a historic moral failure reveals the exact mechanisms of collapse. By standing where others failed, an operator can begin to build the code necessary to hold steady in their own moment of crisis. Analyzing how a competitor behaves under pressure provides a live case study in power. In a long contest between near peers, endurance and integrity become strategic advantages. The scale of China's population shapes its national behavior. While occupying a landmass similar to the United States, it governs 1.4 billion people, a population density that drives a focus on total centralization. This centralized system fuses political authority, economic planning, and military power into a single chain of command under the Chinese Communist Party. Geographically, China's prosperity relies on the sea, yet its eastern edge is constrained by the first island chain. This makes its vast western frontiers the primary buffer for strategic depth. Historical memory regarding internal collapse causes Beijing to interpret any cultural distinctiveness at its frontiers as a challenge to national sovereignty. When internal stability is treated as national defense, authority eventually abandons restraint. Local friction quickly escalates into military-level prevention. In the far northwest, Xinjiang province functions as a strategic frontier. For Beijing, its value comes from its geography and resources. Xinjiang serves as the land bridge to Central Asia and Europe. These rail and highway corridors allow China to move goods westward, bypassing maritime choke points. It is also a critical energy corridor. The major pipelines that feed China's industrial engine converge in this territory, linking Xinjiang directly to national economic resilience. Because this region is the linchpin for both energy security and territorial integrity, the state views absolute, uncompromising control as a national security requirement. In 2014, China launched the Strike Hard campaign in Xinjiang. This shifted the region from standard policing to a doctrine of mass prevention. The government deliberately fused violent extremism and religious identity into a single threat profile. This reclassification allowed authorities to treat ordinary belief as a marker of danger. The campaign targeted the indigenous Uyghur population. Common acts of Sunni Muslim life, fasting, praying, or possessing a Quran, were treated as evidence of radicalization. To enforce control, the state deployed a massive apparatus of digital monitoring and biometric surveillance, observing and reshaping behavior before any dissent could form. Large numbers of civilians were detained without trial or due process. These facilities were reframed by the state as re-education centers, used to displace individual identity with institutional compliance. When fear drives a security response, the distinction between a combatant and an innocent civilian collapses. The state sacrifices its moral legitimacy for the sake of immediate enforced calm. By a narrow security metric, the Strike Hard campaign achieved its goal. Public dissent vanished, and the region became tightly managed. This stability came at the cost of justice. Order was achieved through coercion, but trust was destroyed and dignity was sacrificed. In modern warfare, every tactical action exists on this multidimensional board. A battlefield success is instantly measured against legal obligations. The just war principle of discrimination requires combatants never intend harm to the innocent. Treating entire populations as suspect violated foundational rules of conflict. Achieving stability through mass suspicion and collective pressure proves control is not the same as justice. An authority that erases the line between threat and innocence loses its claim to moral right. The case study provides 4 maxims for the operator. First, fear narrows judgment and accelerates escalation. Second, control achieved through intimidation lacks moral legitimacy. Third, non-combatant immunity is a moral obligation, not a luxury of time. And fourth, the methods used to impose order will determine the character of the peace that remains. Ethical failure at the operator level rapidly becomes strategic failure at the national level. When individual character is treated as optional, the entire institution eventually pays a strategic price. This is why the human anchor is a readiness requirement. The gap between knowing the right answer in a classroom and choosing it under fire is only closed by habit. Ethical readiness is military readiness. In the era of compressed warfare, there is no time to figure out your moral code during the engagement. You must forge it right now.